once I started biking a lot more and driving less, I realized that it's actually so much simpler, and depending on, at least personally for me, I've found so much, like, I felt liberated. Like, that's the word I would choose when I realized. So my journey with bikes started at Detroit Bikes, where I used to work, and the thing I sort of pointed out here is we have two types. So this was the A type, and that one was the B type. This thing that people had where, like, they needed to think of this as the men's bike and that as the women's bike. Like, they could not get that out of their heads. Even my boss, I caught him, like, saying that sometimes, and I would always be like, kind of say something like, what does that even mean? So, like, sort of almost inspired by it and, like, trying to figure out, like, where did this come from and why do we think this so much? And this is due to both a social pressure and, like, a physical restraint. So they had to wear and that they did wear. These corsets that was just sort of a funny comment, of course. Your ankles weren't supposed to show, anything like that. And they were made out of yards and yards and yards of fabric. What I started doing was wearing bloomers, which were these, like, huge, big, puffy pants that sort of started coming out because women needed to get on and off bikes. Most of these women were actually working class, and they rode not for, like, a social thing or because it was, like, hip or anything like that, but because they literally needed transportation. A lot of rural places, people the first women on bikes and first women, like, bringing this into the public. Most of them have been lost to history, partially because they were lower class and didn't have access to, like, all the popular media and stuff that the upper class people usually sort of dictate. So for me personally, when I'm riding, I try to avoid riding at night, especially people in my family and, like, the adults in my life, like, really discourage me not to, and, like, tell me it's not a good idea. So I do my best to stay off the road at night. But if I do have to bike at night, one thing that I do is I try to dress as, like, gender neutral as possible. I don't let my hair fly behind me. I try to wear, like, a big hoodie and just, like, pull the hood up in a way that, like, doesn't necessarily call attention to myself as a woman. Do I think that that's, like, awesome and, like, do I love doing that? No, but, like, it makes me feel safer knowing that, like, I can sort of blend in and maybe not be as much of a target. So personally, that's me. Works, but for me, it makes me feel better, and so far it seems to be effective. So I just want to know if there was, like, anything that you guys have that you do, or also any concerns you have. So, like, what things keep you off your bike? Is it that you don't like biking in the cold, or that, like, there's things you're afraid of, or what is it?
Not having, like, a distinct bike lane makes me want to ride on the sidewalk, in which I usually do, especially because I'm either biking to my job in Royal Oak, which is, like, a fairly busy city, or, yeah, I mean, if I'm just in the neighborhood, I'll bike in the street, and I hate biking on sidewalks. It's not fun. There's lots of obstacles. It's very dangerous. But I also know that cars won't yield to me if I need them to, most situations.
Pull people together and say, like, let's talk about it. Let's, what makes you feel safe when you ride a bike? What makes me feel safe, and what can we learn from each other? And if we do that sort of at the grassroots level, then that seems like it could be a lot more effective for us as individuals. So